Welcome to being on fire for life today. It's such a pleasure to always have your participation, your commitment, your dedication to all the various amazing guests that we have. We feature some of people from all over the world that do profound things because they found in life what brings fire to their solar plexus, in this case, their aura, and it's really a great pleasure today to have Dimitri Moraitis. And it's we just give him lots of love as we bring him in and say, welcome, Dimitri. So glad you're here.
Okay.
And thank you for being with us. And I love reading about your journey. I know our guests will be delighted to hear about it. You started out in film
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
thinking that was gonna be your path. Isn't it funny when we think what our path is gonna be?
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I know. Well, there's an old expression, follow your bliss, right?
Right.
But you don't always realize the direction you think you're going to go. It may not be the end of the journey, right? It may
Mhm.
take you to step B, but then there's steps C and D.
Right?
Yeah.
And like me, do you find that I mean, everything I did from my first job at 11, pumping gas in my
No.
grandfather's store and
Yeah.
changing tires. I was known for the little girl in the community that was very strong and could change tires.
Oh,
I
that's funny.
I right? I found in my life that somehow they do all go together,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
somehow those talents, those gifts, those things, but I don't know if you're aware, but in doing this show and creating, the show with Andrea, we've been doing a podcast. They didn't call it that then, we called it online radio, but we've gotten, more sophisticated. But, it spins off of Howard Thurman's statement of stop asking what the world needs and start asking yourself what makes you come alive,
Mm.
because the world needs more people that are alive. That's why we changed the title of the show to be On Fire for Life, because you and I both know, and on this journey that we're on, that it takes that solar plexus fire, um, to continue to be a difference maker,
Hmm.
right?
Well, we all come here with a life purpose, and some people know it right away. Some people takes a little time to discover it, but you should always put your heart into everything you do, even if it maybe isn't your ideal work at the moment, but keep seeking. If you haven't found exactly what you think is your niche, keep looking. It's there. We're all contributing. We're all making a difference in the collective. What did Gandhi say? Be the change you want to see in the world. You know?
I love what you're saying, Dimitri, because I think that's a strong point to a lot of people, whether it's in love relationship, whether it's in career. It's like, well, this isn't exactly it, so I'm going to hold back until the it comes, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I love what you're saying, and I thank you for reminding me of that as well, that whatever you're in now, give it 100% and
Yeah,
keep giving it and even consider giving it more because
absolutely.
then, right? Then you'll wake up and you'll be there.
And same with relationships. Too many times people are looking for that perfect relationship instead of looking at how they're perfecting themselves in the relationship they're in. And they're missing opportunities many times. Oh, that's not the perfect person. Well, don't wait for that. Get engaged, right? Get involved. What's that expression? You may have to kiss a few frogs to find your prince or princess, you know?
The other expression is, honey, here's the South thing, Southern girl. Honey, if you find the perfect person, they would want to be with you.
Oh, oh,
Oh my gosh, you bring out the joyful spirit with me. Well, I want us to feature all about the spiritual arts and what you are about in your institute and how your encounter with Barbara changed the path of both of your lives and all of that. I love that change your aura, change your life. One of your one of your book titles. Mine was Change Your Energy and Your Life Will Change. But
There
but
is.
that's what you're
Yep.
tapping in, and all I'm saying is that's a beautiful common thread. Me with shamanism, you on your journey, but, I needed to get past the change your thinking, change your life. It will change a little, but it takes a whole lot more than that. But so just take it and run with it and
Yeah,
tell
well,
us about how you got into doing this work and whatever you wanna talk about,
yeah.
really.
Well, both those things you said were great. I mean, I did come to California. I was raised in the Midwest, and I came to California to for the motion picture and entertainment. I was a filmmaker and also a pianist, and art. I was very engaged in artistic endeavors, and it was actually going well. But I was having kind of what I call these inspiration moments. I didn't call it spiritual at that point or metaphysical. I didn't label it that, but it was getting so strong. Eventually, I had this profound spiritual awakening. I call it my Saul in the road to Damascus moment. But even at first, I didn't quite get it. And then when I realized, oh, this is metaphysics, it was like a hungry person finally finding food. I couldn't get enough of it. And literally about a year later, I met Barbara at a dinner party, and she did a meditation. It was the first time I meditated, and it was like opening this ancient door. And had all these. I was studying a lot, but I hadn't studied with anybody, so I had all these questions, and I kind of was pouring my heart out to her. I thought we were having a great conversation. She would joke, "Oh, you really interrogated me that first night," you know. But I realized she was speaking from her own experiences, and she's a generation older than me. Um, and I realized, oh, this is my teacher. I found her,
Mhm.
and we jumped right in. And
What
yet,
age were you, Dimitri?
uh,
What age were you?
excuse me, I was 26 when I met her.
Wow.
Yeah, I was just starting. I was not married, so I had a certain freedom, and it was still in the beginning stages of my career, so it hadn't really, fully established itself yet. But after that, and then we also realized we liked to write together, and I got involved with getting. It wasn't just the teaching; it was getting involved in the mission work that she was doing. And after a while, I realized, well, you know what? This is my life path. Excuse me. As much as I love movies, it's like I found my true love. Let's put it that way.
Mhm.
Metaphysics.
Mhm.
And we eventually founded the institute together because she had. At that point, there were no books or anything like that. Everything she taught was basically oral. And then I realized, no, we gotta organize this. And then all this new stuff came in. We wrote Change Your Aura. That was the flagship book. That became an international bestseller. And it's also the foundation of what we do. We meditate with divine light. Because,
Mm.
like you said earlier about change, everything in life takes energy. So if it's in your aura, by divine law, it'll show up in your life. And if it's not in your aura, you just got to generate the power to make it happen. To
Mhm.
give you an idea, when I first met Barbara, I was still in the showbiz world, and it's kind of a feast or famine. You're either working all the time or you're not working at all. And I was in that
Yeah.
not working mode. And she was looking at this part of my aura here, and just in her sort of casual way said, "Oh, I see this beautiful turquoise light coming out of you. And that's the energy of prosperity." Now,
Mm.
at that moment, it hadn't materialized. But literally 2 weeks later, I got the most lucrative job offer I had in the business up to that point.
Wow.
So the energy was there, but it just took a little bit to manifest. So if you're not happy with where you are, don't commiserate. Just decide you're going to change it and change the energy. And give another example. Barbara's oldest brother was an opera singer, born with this fantastic voice, but it was not a career yet. So she was watching his aura as he was getting, more and more training and all of that. At a certain point, it got so bright, she just said his career is going to start real soon, and it did.
Mm.
So sometimes even when we're at school and we think we're training for something or whatever, you are doing that, of course, but you're also building up the power to make this happen. It takes power and implement it, and the more you build it, the stronger it gets.
I love what you're saying, and in my experience too with, running energy or, working with people, and more so I'll just talk about me. It's that when the chakras are open, when your aura is aligned, it's like it's just inevitable. Like you're saying, it's just inevitable. And whether you're having an off week or an out off month or whatever, the what you're pulling in is still going to come. And that's I don't think a lot of people really understand that because the energy is it cannot be denied, right?
And you shouldn't, a cloudy day doesn't mean the world is falling apart.
No.
You know, so, if we some people quit too soon, they
Mhm.
start something, "Oh, it didn't happen. I gave it like a month." A month, that's like nothing. You
Right.
know, you didn't give it nearly enough. I was very fortunate to work with, the great filmmaker Harold Ramis, did like Groundhog Day and things like
Mhm.
that. And he was with some people that just were starting, and we were all kind of talking together. And they asked him, "What's your advice for starting out in this business? It's a very competitive business." So, well, decide what you want to do and give it 10 years. He didn't
Mhm.
say a month or two. He said, it's because it takes a while to get everything aligned and training and all of this. And even when we started this work, here I was, studying with, the maestro herself. It still took time to
Mhm.
get the ship moving. So you've just got to stay with it. You've got to, if you know this is the right thing to do, don't give up too quick. There are many things that have to fall into place. Sometimes it happens quick, but sometimes it takes time. But if you know you're meant to do it, don't be discouraged. Just we like to say it's not what's happening in your life that's the measure of your spiritual maturity. It's how you're handling what's
Yeah.
happening in your life, how you're dealing with it, and how your intention in putting things out there. That's the big key.
Mhm. That's beautiful. Well, is the Spiritual Arts Center, is it a physical
Yes,
building?
yes, yeah, the
And
institute, yeah, we're in San Diego,
okay,
Where
okay.
are you calling from?
I'm in the Santa Barbara area.
Oh, well, I love Santa Barbara.
Yeah, I'm in
Gorgeous
that
there.
in
Yeah.
that area,
Oh
and,
my god. So paradise, yeah. Yes.
right, yes,
So
yes,
we're very actually close to each other. But we've
absolutely.
been doing internet classes since 2006, long before the Zoom era, you
Yeah.
know. So we have local and online. It's so exciting, we can work with people around the world. I mean, it's just an amazing thing. And what a great job where you're trying to work with people bettering themselves and trying to
Mhm.
find their divine nature and all of that. And it's such an explosion now. When I started with Barbara, it was even then she was saying we're just the beginning. It's the clarion call of the spiritual renaissance. And it's still unfolding,
Yeah.
and what I like about it is it's maturing now. For a while it was a little bit, again, Barbara would call it the circus floor. People were interested in a lot of the phenomenal things, but now
Mhm.
there's real questions. How do I evolve my soul? How do I really make a difference in the world? How do I, they're asking more sincere questions, and I think things are only going to get more like that, and people are going to seek even stronger and more fully.
Well, the other thing that's interesting is that, it used to be there were certain, celebrities of the field, if you
Right,
will.
right.
Neil Donald Walsh, Marianne Williamson, and they're still there, Deepak, and good for them in their aura and the potentiality. But what's neat now is the guy that runs a gym. It's like I really want to dig deeper, and I believe I want to be a spiritual teacher, and they can come to programs like you. It's much more, wider spread as far as the different types of teacher that's available to other people that some people, might seem like, well, they're way out there, but then everyday people are pursuing becoming a spiritual instructor or, a trained, shamanic practitioner. I mean, it's really exciting.
Well, definitely more people are engaged,
Mhm,
and I think the field is going to grow more, especially now, we're reaching this stage with all that's coming up technologically and, artificial intelligence and all these. It's causing people to question life even more and what their values are and
mhm.
what's important. I do feel we're at this kind of inflection point right now, and that the more we're kind of understanding the physical universe, the more important is to understand the underlying spiritual universe that's driving everything.
Mhm.
So that's, I think, gonna get even more so people are gonna ask the big questions, and they should be, but it's I think it's just a great time to be involved in metaphysics right now.
Oh, it totally is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I used to say, that there were 2 things in my life as a teenager that were very complex. One was finding a unity church because it was, like,
Oh,
hard to find, or finding a gay bar. How to find either one of those, and now, I mean, metaphysics is so, broad, it's so known, now the living it on a daily basis, that's digging deeper for sure, but there are places like the spiritual arts, and that is everyone tuning in at spiritualarts.org, that you can tune in and know more about what Dimitri and Barbara, the co-founder of the institute, are doing. And yeah, I was just so impressed when I read all about the journey and now how you offer it to tens of thousands of people. What would you say? This is just We're just throwing it out there because everybody that's been listening to me for years knows that we're not on script. We're just letting
right,
our heart
right.
we're letting our hearts talk. um, what would you say when someone is coming for the first time or the second time? What's their interest now?
Well, certainly they're coming to us because they've had an awakening.
Okay.
Something has stirred in them. Now it sometimes goes 2 different ways. So we do follow this very I mean, we bring in fresh inspiration, but it's an ancient tradition, the Kingdom of Light teachings, right? So we're not this is not something we sort of made up. Um, but sometimes people had their awakening and they're literally seeking. They're trying to figure out what's going on. Others, they say, "Gosh, I've been in a lot of different practices, but this is what I've been looking for."
Mm,
So sometimes, it's again, it's like hearing a beautiful piece of music for the first time. You immediately, "Okay, I know this is for me." This is and that's the same thing I think with spiritual practices. You find the one that's right for you. I think I don't know if I would call it luck or kismet, but finding Barbara early rather than later helped me get on my path very quickly as far
mhm.
as the teaching part. A little bit about her, she was seeing auras at age 3 years old,
Wow.
and then this was her father was a Greek Orthodox priest and a builder of churches, and the family moved all over the country. She's I think by 8 years old she was had lived in 8 different places, and at 11, she met somebody that could also see the aura and was a hermetic scientist and started teaching her how to interpret the aura colors, understand what was
Wow.
going on. Then when they moved to California to build the church in Pasadena, the mother said, "That's it. We're staying here. I love California. This is the golden age of Hollywood." People like the great Cecil B. DeMille and Bob Hope and all these people, legends in their day,
Oh, yeah.
and she thought she was going to go in a career world, but then the clear message came in, no, metaphysics is your destiny. And then she met a great mystic that was really trained her to teach. And then in the early 70s, so what I tell people, she saw the aura from age 3, her first training age 11, but she wasn't teaching till almost 40. So there was this long period of training. Be
Mhm.
it, it's one thing to be a clairvoyant, something completely different to be a trained clairvoyant. That
Yeah.
takes many, many years of practice. And then when I started with her, I was so happy just being a student. I didn't realize eventually she was grooming me to be a teacher. I
Mm.
didn't see myself that way at first. But hopefully now I'm going to continue the tradition and keep things going on, and the legacy that she's left. Yeah.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's a wonderful story, and as you said, it's like the Joseph Campbell "Follow Your Bliss" story,
Yeah,
and
yeah, well, it sounds like you have a lot of power,
the
right?
hero journey. I think about my own path, getting a message at 5
Oh my
that
goodness.
that I had a message to bring. However, a 5-year-old hears that. I mean, it was a moment stopper,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
Oh,
And people go, "God, you're so lucky." Well, I think if I had Yogananda's parents and said, "Oh, I got this message," and they went, "Let's send you to a mystery school," but that was not really the experience.
Oh, no.
That wasn't the experience that I had for sure. But that being said, I think of myself as an early trained science of mind minister,
Oh,
and arrogant,
training.
in my 30s, as a young whippersnapper minister, I'd be talking to 120 people, and we're going to change the world, and be empowered, and it, and a lot of that it is a gift, and it's a beautiful thing. However, I too I found myself at a stopping point
Mhm.
where it's like it was part of soul development, It's like things I felt I didn't feel that way anymore. Things I used to say, couldn't say it like that anymore.
Oh, wow.
And then that's what directed me into shamanic learning,
Oh,
of a much different layer of sacredness, and
yeah.
getting so much away from just this, and more spiritual motivated inspired activism, and all that. So it is, and the reason I'm sharing this, everyone, is it's it's so natural. It feels unnatural when you meet a stop sign, but it turns out to be one of the greatest and most natural things that can happen in your life. When things no longer work the way they used to, or you meet a teacher like Dimitri that says, "Wow, I've got some things to share with you." Um, it's life changing. It's such a blessing.
You listen to it. Some
Yes.
people don't. We've met people that in childhood they had experiences, but later on they forgot them because people told them, like you said, "Oh, that's silly stuff." That don't that's what you're making all that up. And
Yes.
the fact that you can keep your strength, and even let's say as a successful minister, you realize, well, wait a minute, there's something else. The ability to be flexible that way is very important. We should never feel like the journey is fixed. To our last day on earth, we're going to be learning and growing.
Yes.
And this is one thing I've always remembered from my musical training. I love to play Beethoven, and he was so accomplished as a young man, as a composer and writer, and he wasn't satisfied with himself. He did all this work. He said, "No, it's not good enough. I got to do something new." And three times he reinvented himself, and doing that, he reinvented music, and
Mhm.
it's never been the same since. So, and Sophocles, he wrote one of his greatest plays at 94 years old. You know,
And you're right. I mean, those are important things to remember. I was, taking a tour at the Santa Barbara Museum, and, the tour guide was saying, the docent was saying that, that Monet, wasn't really valued for the longest time. He struggled and struggled and struggled. And they just sold one of his paintings for like 127 million or something,
that.
but he struggled. Because I was asking her, the docent, if she had actually been to Giverny to see his
Oh,
home place, because it's life-changing to do that.
right.
Um, and, that's just like you're saying, and that we do tend to, it seems in humanity, there's the thought of, like you said, "I'm gonna give something a year. If it doesn't work out, I'm gonna go do something else." No, it might take 10, might take 20, may take longer, but, you stop and you go, "God, I'm so grateful that the person didn't give up on the light bulb, and the
Right,
person
right,
didn't give up on painting these beautiful things, or writing a play, or, and didn't buy into a system of limitations. We have a lot of systems of limitations, and I love your energy, and Andrea will tell you, as the executive producer, I don't say that to every week, but yeah, I love the vibration of your energy. It's everything you're saying that you are, and that you stand for, in my humble opinion. I really feel it. It's a real gift, and a blessing.
I do
That
try to walk my talk,
me
as
too.
say what well, I'm sure you have been, yeah. It's you're reminding me just a little anecdote. Living in Chicago, there was the Art Institute, Chicago there, and they have some of the best collection of impressionistic art. That's
Yes.
because they bought it real cheap a long time ago, but it wasn't that valuable. So some smart curator said this is gonna be worth a lot of money someday, and they boy, were they right.
They were right, that's
Oh,
for sure.
Monet, Renoir,
Mhm. It's amazing, and I failed to write her name down, but I discovered there was a female impressionist,
Oh,
right? And, I've got to look her up, or I'll ask the lady that gave me the tour. Now, what was her name? When she died, when they said, what did she do or what was her profession, or I don't know the word they would use in the 1800s, but
right.
they wrote none.
Oh,
They
gosh.
wrote none, and yet her paintings are, now they're profound, and I said, "Oh, there's a movie coming out about her
Uh,
at some point," you know?
I
But,
know. I'm sure many women artists did not get their due justice,
mm-mm,
and they were just look, they were just as good as their male counterparts, if not better. Yeah, it was
right.
just the era, at that time. But I hope the paintings are preserved,
Yes. Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Yeah, they
yeah.
had some of hers, and that was, really, really, really beautiful. So, it was a true gift. There's something wanting to come to me to ask you. Oh, what have enjoyed about this time with you is, like myself, you see, I do, quote, unquote, "live in the real world,"
Mhm. Well, we
and
have
I live in the bigger real world with a capital R.
yeah.
But that being said, I know that the bigger world is not the one that's a notification on your phone. And, that's what I wanted to get back with your energy of there's no, "I'm depleted," there's no, "Oh, our world is crazy. Oh, we're falling apart." It's like, "No, that is not what our job is."
That's not reality, we call that the doom and gloom scenario, right?
Yes,
The sky
yes,
is falling, the sky is falling.
yeah,
Um, if even if you look at it statistically, the last 200 years, let's say, quality of living then to now, of course, there's a lot of problems now, but compared to not that long ago, the quality of living across the board is far better than it's been.
mhm,
So the
mhm,
world is not getting worse, it's getting better. But
yes,
we are going through growing pains and we are going through major changes. And when you're going through growing pains, it's like feeling an awkward teenager or something. You don't know what's around the corner. And of course, it can feel scary, right? But I
mhm,
think now also right now with the bombardment of information, I mean that I forget who said the statistic, but a lie travels across the internet 6 times faster than the truth,
mm,
usually very sensationalistic, and it captures.
that's
So
good.
you got to be more discerning than ever before, and you've got to be hard. You've got to work harder to shut out the noise because there's a lot of nonsense going on out there, so that you can hear the real stuff and pay attention to the things that are important. We only have so many hours in a day, and we can't do everything. So we have to put our attention on the things that are most important to us. And people got to come first. Things, if we're spending all our time in the phone, and that's our communicate, that's not community, that is a form of communication, but we got to make sure there is this communication
Mhm,
going on. I loved one time we were at a restaurant and there was a whole, I don't know if they were celebrating some whole group of teenage girls, and they all had their phones in a stack in the middle. Clearly, they had agreed, okay, we're talking to each other for this
mm,
time period, not going like this. And we need to make sure we're doing that, because how are we going to connect with each other for real? And how are we going to find our spiritual self if we are getting too bombarded by things going on around us?
mhm, that's so true. So
Yeah.
true. In many ways, we're more connected than we've ever been, and
Yeah. Yeah.
yet not, It's like,
Well,
I mean, something as simple as watching and especially as because you've lived here longer than I. I'm a newbie in California, of not
oh,
quite
really?
not
Oh,
quite
you're from
3
South,
years.
you said,
I
yeah.
was a Floridian,
Oh, okay.
thus
A little drier out here than
you'll
Florida.
always see me with coats on and stuff 'cause I lived in hot for a very long time.
Oh,
But,
yeah.
anyway, they're very respectful in California of the pedestrians.
Oh, yeah.
But that being said, it's fascinating to see a pedestrian crossing the street and won't not be on the phone.
Oh,
And I'm
gosh.
not talking, I'm talking
Yeah.
it's like they're not paying attention to even make sure the car is stopped or it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, there is definitely a little bit of addiction going on there,
Oh, for sure, for
you
sure.
know?
That's exactly what it is. But we've gotta change all that, and again, it comes back to the spirit life, and
Mhm,
living the aura and all of that. One of the things we, emphasize a lot in our work, it's actually a foundation, is meditation and prayer. So, we always recommend people make a daily meditation practice,
mhm.
and in that time, kind of find your divine center, and then come from that sacred space. I meditate every day, and I have now for 40 years. I mean, I met Barbara 40 years ago,
Mhm.
um, as I said, in my 20s.
Well,
And
you were, excuse me, but this keeps coming through to me. We're all very grateful to Shirley MacLaine.
oh, Shirley MacLaine, she's interesting.
Oh my god. Well, with
She
her
went out on
book,
the limb, as the
Out
saying.
on a Limb, it just the masses
Well, she was
went,
one of the first, like,
"What?"
major star, right, that had such a great reputation,
Exactly.
about these things that were, kind of, shall we say, out there,
Right. Yep.
and that wasn't easy to do,
No.
I'm sure she got a lot of flack for that, but she still had a great career, she
Mhm.
still did many, many things because she was such a good actress, or is such a good actress, um,
Absolutely.
and then Barbara was that way too, really a pioneer when, she told me, you know, when she first started, no one was, this was before even curling photography or anything. When someone actually called her on the phone, said, "I'd like to pay you to do a workshop on the aura," she dropped the phone. She couldn't believe somebody would want to do that. It was hard to think of metaphysics as a career back then, now more so. But then not so much. So to be those people that were willing, she could have had a lucrative career in show business, and to walk away from all of that to take a very uncharted territory. Yeah, those are the people that laid the foundation for us. We
Yes.
would be what we're doing if they weren't making those sacrifices because they felt they had to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, so do you do, licensing and credentialing within the school?
Not credentialing so much. We do certifications. We have a
Okay.
5-year healing certification, in the healing technique that we offer.
Tell
And
us about that,
yeah,
Dimitri.
um, so there's the foundational program we have is called the 7 spiritual arts. So the 7 liberal arts, of course, train to think, and train the mind and rationalize and how to deal with the intellectual rigors and challenges of life. The 7 spiritual arts are to help focus to deal with the spiritual challenges of life.
Mm,
So they're in things like the aura and healing and karma, and the spiritual hierarchy and the mind, and um, the heart, because a big part of it is, if you're not living your truth, what's the point of it all? And the whole growth of evolution. Why are you even on a spiritual path to begin with?
mhm,
So, our motto is helping souls grow. That the journey is to evolve the soul. Then we do offer also, as a cornerstone, healing, to offer how do you can the healing practice for others. When Barbara started, that's how she started, as a healer, and she was so good at it, she thought that was going to be her practice, her fame, shall we say. But then when people realized, oh, you can see the energies as they're coming in, they got fascinated with the aura, and she developed her teaching career. But that's a very big part of it, because if you look at any of the great mystics, they were all healers. They all had the
mm.
ability to heal. It was just, healing in our work just means, it doesn't mean just of a physical situation.
No.
It's transformation, right? It's a change. It's an alchemy that goes on. And we're all going to need healing in something, whether it's in
Mhm.
relationships or career or finances, or physical health or mental, emotional health, whatever's going on. We all are going to take a bruising every now and then on this earth, and the ability to transmute that is just a key to healthy living in all parts of your life. So
Mhm.
we're very proud of that part of the work, and there's been some fantastic. I mean, I remember when again, my father was a doctor, so I came from kind of a medical family, shall we say. But I remember when again, working with Barbara, there was a woman that came in, she had a brain tumor, and it was inoperable and it was deep in the brain, but she was so determined to do alternative therapy. And we did countless healings with her. She could see the light coming in. And she went for an MRI about 3 or 4 months after all of this. And the doctor dropped his jaw. The tumor was gone.
Mm.
Now I'm not saying every case is going to happen like that, but
Oh, I know.
it,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, the power of spirit is there,
Mhm.
and yes, she tried other things, but especially when it's now, we believe in every alternative, pursue the medical, pursue the holistic, pursue the spiritual, because God works through all of them. But you don't want to be exclusive. It's good to do an integrative approach to things, and then you've got all your bases covered. I think
Absolutely, absolutely. And you're aligning with going back to,
right,
it's about what do you believe? And I'm a good friend of mine right now is facing, and shockingly so, stage 4,
oh,
and
oh,
and we spend more time talking about the core. Like, what has worked for you all your life? What have you stayed committed to all your life? That's what you want to stay committed to. So if 12 people tell you, oh, you just got to do chemo, if you don't believe in it at all, you need to reassess that. If you can believe in it a little bit, what could you call it? So you could believe in it, or could it be both and you're it's a journey, this process of life for sure. But it's both and, isn't it? It's how to incorporate the various choices that we're making at any given time.
well, we'll pray for that person. I mean, they have to do their due diligence to see
Mhm.
what all the options are. But even if they decide to go through chemo, they should be pursuing the spiritual as well as you say,
Absolutely.
the mind. Where your mind, if the more you're thinking in terms of sickness, the more it's manifesting. So
Mhm.
regardless of what you're doing, you've got to keep that energetic outlook and that proactive approach to your health and well-being. There have been many documented cases of people turning around, cancer situations and
Mhm.
all of that. So we will definitely pray for the best in that situation. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I observed that when, like, I went to Brazil, and I had an aha moment when I saw people there with wheelchairs and a tumor on their face, and not to be disrespectful, but in a way, they they had an advantage because they could see what theirs were. And, because I like to say that, often people will think, "Oh, well, I don't have anything to heal," you know? Uh, "I don't have anything broken," or, whatever. Um, Healing isn't just, what's not working about you, or what's broken, or the tumor, or the knot, or the whatever. It could be self-esteem. It could be, like you were talking about, allowing your soul to grow,
Mm.
being willing and courageous to get out of the comfort
Yeah.
of your own box. That's healing right there. That takes a lot. I know the first time, when I had a client on the table and I'm doing my energy work, to own that, being a catalyst,
Mhm.
not ego tripping, but I'm this catalyst, and really own that energy, that's a healing. Right?
Well, you're the channel, right? You're not the source. That's
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 right. That's
that's
right.
um, Barbara had to help a woman once that was not doing well, and she walked in to kind of see what was going on. She said the place was all disoriented, her aura was all disoriented, And she thought to herself, "Well, gosh, I don't know if I can help this person." And then the higher came in and said, "You're not gonna help anybody. We're gonna do the healing."
Mm,
So,
mhm.
in other words,
Yes.
we're the vessel. We're the
Yep.
vessel. The divine is the healer, and that's actually why well, partly it's a 5-year program that we offer, because the technique is very simple to learn, but to get into the healing consciousness, you may have read, Joel Goldsmith, The Art of Spiritual
Mhm.
Healing, right? And he said the goal is to get in a state of consciousness where illness does not exist.
Mhm.
That's a very difficult thing to do. And he said it took me 13 years to figure that one out. But often when someone would ask him for a healing, he would get into this whole different frame of consciousness. And often the person was helped by getting into that. So it's where you are in your awareness is very important in all of this. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
but I hope, as we're celebrating now our 25th anniversary edition of Change Your Aura.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and we're hoping that now people will take it more seriously, to realize that this energy field really is there, and it's not like a child's game, and that it's changing, it's fluctuating. So to think right now, everything you're thinking, I'm thinking, is showing up in our aura. Everything we're feeling, the things we're saying, all these things are moving in energies and flows, and the aura doesn't lie. It'll show itself for what's really going on. So if you say, "Oh no, I'm fine, I'm fine," but you're not fine, that's going to show up in your aura. And the goal is to change it. So be honest with yourself. There's something you see in yourself that you're not as proud of as could be. Don't berate yourself, don't belittle yourself, but also don't shove it under the rug. Do something about it.
Mhm.
Again, I quote Gandhi, where if he saw the tiniest flaw in himself, he'd be relentless to figure out. He was very forgiving with other people, but relentless with himself, or often the other way around, right? We're
Right.
forgiving with ourselves,
Right.
up on other people. Oh, I see that problem in you. Yeah, but you got to look at what's going on with you. You're responsible for you.
I love that story about Gandhi, about the mom and her child, about the mom traveled far and took her daughter, and she asked Gandhi to tell her daughter to stop eating sugar,
Oh, that's a great
right, you
story.
remember that one? And
Story.
he goes, "Oh, you need to come back in 6 months, come back in 6 months." So in 6 months, she comes back and then says, I'm back, and I really need you to talk to my daughter." And he goes, "You need to give up sugar." And she's like, "Why didn't you do that the first time?" "'Cause I had to give up sugar," he said. It is
What
a great way to live. I
Yeah,
mean, that's a
what a great way to
and
live.
then like you're talking about, walking the talk. It's a
Oh,
really great way to live.
he was on,
Mhm.
his, I mean, there's a nice biography on there, or a couple, but there's a little autobiography, and I recommend everybody read that, because that's where I really learned that whole thing of
Mhm.
how he was about changing things and focusing more on himself. And then we all know the change he was in the world. I mean, it was
Oh gosh.
sort of phenomenal. And he never held an actual
Really.
office or a title, right? I mean, they gave him the title Mahatma, but it was not like an official title. He wasn't a Brahmin priest. He wasn't the president of the country. He was this spirit that was
Mhm.
capturing the whole country. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
So
a blessing
those
and
are
what
the
a gift.
us. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I wanna remind everybody you can go to spiritualarts.org. You can learn more about the path and the classes and the courses and the 5-year program, to become certified, and also, if you haven't read the book, Change Your Aura, Change Your Life, this would be a great time to dive in with the collective consciousness right
Mhm.
now, with it being the 25-year program. Well, you're not too far away from
No.
us as far as location, so you just never know.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah.
Just
Absolutely.
never know. Well, it's been a pleasure being with you and being your energy. I feel electrified. I bet Andrea does too. Andrea, if you do nod your head,
She's yeah.
yes, she's in the studio with us, but it's like, "Wee."
Well, I appreciate both of you and all the work that you're doing.
Oh,
You've been doing
bless
this a
you.
long time, and you've really helped carry the torch, as they say.
Well, thank you so much,
Yeah.
Dimitri, and Is there any last words or anything you wanna talk about? I know that you said your number one value in life is that, you dedicated yourself to be of spiritual service,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
really, really cool.
And I
Uh,
just encourage everyone, obviously your listeners have had some type of a spiritual calling or awakening, and just pursue it with everything you've got. It's not an accident. It's God knocking on your door. So
mm,
just try to make your spiritual life an even higher priority, and it'll open up amazing doors for you.
mm, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Our great pleasure. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, dear friends, for tuning in, and thank you for sharing